Hi, this is the New York Parrot Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, your host. Today we have Claudia Piccinno, who was born in the south of Italy, but she lives and teaches in the north of Italy, operating in more than 100 anthologies. She's a former member of the jury in many national and international literary prizes. She is the Continental Director for Europe and the World Festival Poetry. She represents Istanbul culture in Italy as ambassador of the First Senate Art Association. She is published in 38 poetry books, among her own poetry collections and other poets, translations into Italian language. She was conferred with the most prestigious award, Stele of Rosetta, in Istanbul in 2016, the Literary Awards Naji Nauman Prize 2018, World Icon for Peace for WIP in Ondo City, Nigeria in April 2017, Global Icon Award 2020 for Writers Capital International Foundation, the Light of Galata, Turkey 2021. She gained almost 250 prizes in Italy for poetry and cultural merits. Her poem Blue is played on a Majolica stele posted on the seafront in Santa Caterina de Nardo. She is a European editor for the international literary magazine Papyrus in Turkey and for a Tunis magazine International. She was responsible for poetry in the Italian magazine called Gazzetta of Istanbul, printed in Turkey by the Italian community. She writes for the e-magazine and literature newspapers such as Monabo, for Balm Press, Il Porticello, and her website is claudiapiccinno.weebly.com. She's also written numerous critical essays or prefaces to the books of other poets. Thank you for joining us today, Claudia. It's wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to New York Parrot Literary Corner. It's a real an honor for me to be with you this evening.
And we're glad to have you. So, I'm curious, what is the World Festival Poetry, and how did you get involved with it?
Well, I was involved in the first international festival poetry, which I was involved with, was Istanbul, the Stele of Rosetta. You know, it was a festival in 2016 in Istanbul. And there I met lots of people from all over the world. And from that date, I began to translate other poets because we get in touch. And it was really a great experience for me. Even before I was in Italian literary festival and also in Belgrade. But you know, Istanbul is the center of lots of different culture. And for me, it was a great experience, really.
Wonderful. It sounds like quite a lot of cultural activity going on, a lot of interactions with people from different countries, and sort of a good place to be as a poet, because you love to meet new people and learn new things about different places. That's really wonderful.
Yes.
So I'm curious,
Indeed.
Go ahead.
Indeed, I want to say in that occasion, we met people from Saudi Arabia, from American, from Germany. And for example, I get in touch with a great poet who lives in New York, Maya Herman Sekulic. She's from Belgrade, but she lives in New York. And for example, I translated into Italian language her book. I didn't know Serbian language, but I translated from English because all these poets I met write in two languages. And English is the vehicular language, is the Latin of our days.
Right.
You know Latin? Yes. So it was a really great experience. I translate also a poet from Saudi Arabia and two poets from Saudi Arabia. One is Ali Azmi, and another one, for example, Raid Ishi. And you know, I'm here in the south of Italy. Today I'm in my homeland. I'm on holiday, and I haven't got all my books, but I wrote 41 books.
Wow.
41 books.
How many years did that take you to write that many books?
Really, I started to write when I was a kid, but I started to publish from 2011. So in 10 years,
Wow.
I published 40 books.
That's impressive.
Yes.
And are those are all translations and your books as well?
Yes, 20 books are mine in various languages, and other 20 are books I have translated from other poets, you know.
Wow, interesting. So you're a very versatile person when it comes to, you know, verse.
Yes, this is, you know, increase my horizon, my mind horizon, you know. We need to know other poetry, and not only our poetry, because we are not the only ones in the world.
Right.
So
it's good to have a community. Excellent to have community and have people behind you and people you work with as well. So it sounds like you're very active in a world community, which is wonderful and impressive and beautiful. So what about your book, The Stone Sphinx? You sent me a copy of that. What kind of themes do you explore in The Stone Sphinx?
Yes. You know, The Stone Sphinx is a book I wrote during the first lockdown in Italy, 2020 pandemic. And I wonder why this solitude, why in Italy it was a real hard time. After China, we were the first to lose lots of lives, you know. So this is a poetry about resilience, because we needed to be strong. We needed to believe in poetry, to believe in beauty, you know.
Right.
And this is a bilingual book, Italian and English. And recently it was conferred a prestigious award in India. Azad organization with Dr. Jarnail Anand gave the only prize for poetry to this book in all over the world. So it's a really great honor.
Wow, you know. Interesting. That's wonderful. Congratulations on that. So who did the translation for that book? Or did you do the translation?
I did the translation myself. Yes. Okay. Also, I have also another bilingual books, which is Hypothetical Landing. It was out in 2017, and it was also Italian and English. And this is a book about, you know, marginality we have in the world, migrants, oncological patients, and drug addicted, you know, the marginality we have in our society. And it is also, there is here a very important poem about kids with autism. Kids with autism, and this poem was translated into 35 languages. Because it is a topic really important.
Yes, absolutely.
You know. Yes. So there is this poet was adopted in the school also to speak about kids with autism to other pupils. It's really important, you know.
Yes, yes, it's definitely important, I think, because then it brings awareness of issues and what autistic kids face. And that's something it's important because people need to build empathy for people that are attuned
Yes.
differently, you know, and so that way we can treat each other with more respect and understanding. I think that's wonderful that you.
And sorry, my connection is. Yes, and I think, I firmly believe that all kids, all people have the right to their identity. Also, a kid with autism has the right to his identity.
Right,
So the poem is, for example, David is your name, because it is not a diagnosis. He is a kid. He
right,
is not an illness. He is a kid, a person,
right. That's something that I try to, I have my own mental health challenges as well, and I think that it's very important to identify yourself as a person. You're not so much the illness as so many
Yes,
more things there are to you, that you can't just like be couched in the illness, or the problem that you have, or the difficulties you have. You have to be willing to branch out and recognize your full personality, and other people should be willing to do the same for you as well. I think that's really nice that
yes,
you wrote that poem. Would you like to read the poem?
yes, I can read. I can read also in Italian language, and
Okay,
after after in English. Okay?
absolutely. That sounds wonderful.
Yes. So, poem is Davide è il tuo nome. Dove è fermo il tuo sguardo, Davide? Inciampasti nel dettaglio per non vedere l'insieme. Non è facile decifrare la bussola dei sensi in tale marasma di stimoli sociali. E come sosterrò io la ricompensa di quella biologia molesta? Rispettare la mancata connessione tra le tue abilità sensoriali e fatica immane per noi, cosiddetti normali. Sopperire coi gesti a un'attenzione condivisa, portarti a esplicitare una richiesta, sono finalità impellenti nella mia testa. Davide è il tuo nome. Non sei per me diagnosi né variante o falla di architettura genetica, aspettativa disattesa, precoce o tardivo intervento, compromessa plasticità cerebrale, disturbo dello spettro. Davide è il tuo nome, il bambino che ama il dettaglio. Indosserò il tuo sguardo, ascolterò la tua confusa stereotipia, scenderò a incrociare l'oggetto che ti attrae per accorciare la distanza che ti tiene relegato in una stanza. And now in English.
Okay.
David is your name. Where did your gaze stop, David? You fell on a detail in order not to see the whole. It is not easy to decipher the compass of the senses in the chaos of social stimuli. And how will I support the reward of that troublesome biology? To observe the failure in the connection among your sensory abilities, it is an enormous effort for us, the so-called normal ones. To compensate with gestures, to a shared attention, to take you to clarify a request, these are compelling purposes in my head. David is your name. You are not for me a diagnosis, or a variant, or a flow of genetic architecture, a disregarded expectation, an early or late intervention, an impaired brain plasticity, a spectrum disorder. David is your name, the child who loves the detail. I'll wear your look. I'll listen to your confused stereotypy. I'll go down to cross the object that attracts you so as to shorten the distance that keeps you confined in a room. Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful. I think there's a lot of empathy there in the poem, and goes from multiple perspectives. It's you're looking at the person, but you're also looking at the people who are viewing the person. So I think that's really important to have these multiple points of view. about that looking at this particular issue. So it's a very nice poem. Thank you very much for sharing
You
that.
know, David was a real kid. He was a pupil of mine in my classroom, because I'm a teacher in a primary school, And now David is 14 years old. He likes music, and he can express himself with gestures, with mimetic, but he's a beautiful kid,
Yeah, absolutely. Very difficult to be kind of locked in your body like that and not be able to communicate with people that are talking and normally, like what we call normal. There's so many like with neurodivergent people. It's like it must be very difficult to really feel that way. No, you have so much you can say or communicate, and you're not able to do it in a way that most people relate to or understand. So very difficult. But
yes, I don't know which is the American system in the school, but these kids in Italy are together with the normal kids.
yes, they do
So
that here too.
in the
As well.
classroom, they are together. Yes,
Yeah.
and it is really important, not only for kids with a disability, but for the normal ones, because they learn to be more empathic. They learn to be more altruistic, It is important. We have to learn.
Absolutely. You learn from all kinds of people. Have you ever read that poem for your students and had them kind of relate to it and listen to it and think about it, or was that just for the book?
Sorry, I didn't get your question because
have you ever read that poem for some of your students?
yes, yes. Usually, I read some of my poems to the students. I don't write for kids. My poems are for a public adult. But I think that some children can understand better than adults.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
yes, poetry is the mother tongue of all languages. So anyone can listen. Anyone can understand.
So you're also an editor as well. So what kind of poetry do you prefer personally as an editor when you're looking into publishing or into, promoting someone's work?
Usually, I prefer poetry that deals with civil topics. Because I think that poetry has a mission, impossible mission, to awake the consciences, So when I have to publish in a magazine, I prefer authors that deals with marginality and with the true problems of life, of real life, and not only the love poetry. Yes, poetry in the past was into beauty. It's right, but poetry was also used for epic. To claim epic gestures or to. But I think that in this 21st century, we have to use poetry to awake conscience.
Yes. I think it has a power to do that sometimes for people who are actually willing to listen and read and hear it. Maybe it makes them think in a different light. I remember reading a quote from an American poet named Nikki Giovanni, who said she felt she was preaching to the saved, and that was how she felt about writing about social justice and so as you said, civic issues. Sometimes that seems like that, but maybe you don't really know who you can reach. So it's important,
Yes.
I think, to speak on all matters as a poet. To bring out, yeah, as you say, the civic issues and beauty and justice and all that are all those things are intertwined, I think. So it's definitely important to write about social issues to serve as the historians as well
Yes.
as poets per se writing about beauty and the romantic traditions and stuff like that. So I'm glad you're doing that. It's very nice, and it's wonderful that you're running that specific, especially right now. We have so many conflicts going on in the world, you know,
Yes.
and trouble, just so much trouble. We need to, have there needs to be a voice of conscience and a voice of liberation and people wanting to be hopeful.
Yes, we have also to say that poetry doesn't mind of politics, doesn't
Right.
mind of flags, doesn't mind of nationality. For example, I translated with friends of mine from Turkey, we translated 15 Italian poets into English and into Turkish language, and 15 Turkish poets into English language and Italian language. And so we did this book, A Mediterranean Breeze Among Turkey and Italy. So I think that we have to join people, not to divide. Politics can divide, but poetry has to join,
It's a very human thing. I think it's much bigger than the politics. It's always about, when you write about social issues, you're writing from perspective of people experiencing problems, not so much what party do we vote for, or who do we choose to lead the country or something like that. It's not meant to be propaganda for something like that. It's really supposed to be a very, down to earth human thing that reaches into people's hearts. And I think that's excellent perspective to keep in mind for a lot of people. Some people, I mean, a lot of governments use poetry to promote their agenda, push their agenda, but it's wonderful that, that you have that perspective of it being a very human and a human thing rather than a political, persuasion thing. So that's wonderful. So, other than what we've already discussed, what are some of the highlights you find of your poetry career?
Sorry.
What are some of the, what are some of the most exciting points in your poetry career as you've been writing? What have you found that your greatest accomplishments?
My greatest accomplishment was a public laws that University of Vaticano gave to me this year. This is, in Latin. Yes, this is in Latin of a University Pontificia of Vaticano in Rome, and it is really important.
Wow.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And by the way, I also had a civic benemerenza, a civic prize from the governor of the town where I live, because he is a little town in the north of Italy, and where I teach, where I work. I was not born there, but the governor called me and gave me a prize because he says, you do freely your translation. I didn't work for money,
Right.
And this is really important because I don't ask money, and I want to promote other poets, not myself, not only myself.
Right.
Because I think that poetry can build bridges among people, can build bridges and nets among people. So
definitely, absolutely. I think it's a very positive outlook of poetry. I think.
Yes. For example, this is a book that was published in Holland, Lerner Press, and we are only 10 female voices. And here there is also Joanna Swenson that you have interviewed.
Yes, I remember her very well.
We are together, and I'm the only Italian lady to be here. It is really important to be here because we are 10 female voices all over the world, and the soul and the heart is the same. We are mother, we are female, the art is the same.
That's interesting. And like we go back to that being a very human experience instead of, I mean, something about poetry, it can show just how much in common people have. And I think it was the poet Pablo Neruda who said poetry is about what we all have in common. And so it's a very communal, thing. And it's a wonderful thing to have, poets such as yourself who are promoting the universality of poetry and sort of like human side of it. So I appreciate you doing that.
Catullo, do you know Catullo was an ancient poet from 4th century before Christ, and he said poetry didn't give to eat, didn't give the food, because the poet is not rich. Not rich.
Yes, absolutely. So would you
you need to do another job?
Yeah, I think teach or, any number of other things. Like I know a lot of poets who do a lot of different things, social work or, something that still contributes to the positive general well-being of people, and, something that's good, but it's not going to pay. I mean, poetry's not going to pay. So you have to have something more substantial to work for. Definitely. So would you like to share another poem with us?
Yes, I can read something about here.
Okay.
The last book, yes.
Absolutely, it sounds great.
Yes, I read you, I got lost in fear. I got lost in fear, not a milestone to show me the direction of travel. I waited at the crossroads that you go back candidly with your doubts and your reasons. I looked to the side of the roadway, looking for a path or a shortcut. Nothing led me to the arrival point. Nobody took me by hand. Each of my steps followed the rules of the good way, make arrangements to the others like violins or sail, and wait for the right vibration, the sound of a beat that will take me home. Yes, this was after pandemic,
Yes. So it's sort of about, returning to normal in a way and waiting for that to happen, waiting for us to go back to a sort of normal,
yes, to a normal daily life. I was asking for the normal routine, the daily life that in the past annoyed us, but in that period I need a daily routine,
We miss the small things, the small things are what we miss when they're gone. It's like things that we take for granted,
Yes.
We had this long period of isolation and we miss people, we usually get on each other's nerves, we usually bother each other, but but we miss each other when we're not there,
I have to do a confession. I forgot this interview this evening, and I was walking in the center of a little town when I see your email on my mobile, and I told, oh my God, I have to go home.
Because quite all right. It's quite all right.
I really need to see people, and I was walking in the street because I needed to meet someone.
Right. And it happens. I mean, sometimes people are forgetful, you know. It's not there's a lot of stuff going on at the same time, and it's hard to remember things. But I'm glad I emailed you, that way you remembered, you know, that way I was wondering if you had got the email.
Yes.
But if you would like to read another poem, feel free.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
I I will read As a Horse Without Bridle.
Hmm.
My heart gave up, like a horse without bridle, in an obstacle course. He has lost his trajectory sowing a storm. Locked in the fence with crazy fools, he does not resign at the time that advances, and wisened his horsehair. No squire has been faithful to him, no gamekeeper. He feeds on wild daisies, and he forgot the rose. Sometimes, I wrote, I, I write love poems too.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes,
You kind of have to. It's something that it's a very deep and human experience, and it's something that we all go through in some point of our lives. So it's universal. So again, we go back to
yes,
universality, and the poem itself, you know, is a love poem, and you know, it's wonderful. It's a great poem. Thank you for sharing that. So my one of my last questions is what when your bio says you write critical essays and reviews, I guess you would say. So what do you write about? What are your topics in that?
my critical essays are about literature, but also about Europe, because Europe, difference from USA, is not a common politic and a common. It is a Europe only for economic matters, but there is not the same educational system. There is not the same health system. So we need to be more integrated between each other. So sometimes I've written about literature, but also about these social issues about Europe, because I dreams more union. I I hope we can be more similar in the future.
Hmm.
We still are very different.
Right.
Germany from France, from Italy, from Austria. So, for example, Italy is more similar to people from the Mediterranean, like Turkey, like Spain, like Greece. But we are very different from Germany, Austria, Belgium. I don't know why. It is maybe the history in the past. Uh,
Probably,
you
yeah,
know.
I think so. That helps. That develops people, characters, and stuff over time. The differing histories. I think that's probably very true.
Yes, maybe we are heritage of Roman Empire.
Hmm.
People which were under Roman Empire are more similar.
Hmm.
I think it's an historical matter.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Mm.
So thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful talking to you, and just keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully you'll get more awards and accolades and the nice things that keep you, you know, recognized, you know, more recognition. You deserve that. So thank you for joining us, Claudia. It's
Thank
been
you.
wonderful talking to you. So this has been the New York Parrot Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering, and you can reach me at literary corner at newyorkparrot.com. Then that's to get in touch with us if you have a want a platform for yourself, for your work, to discuss important issues of the day. Please feel free to get in touch with me, literary corner at newyorkparrot.com. We're looking for donations as well at paypal.me/nyparrot. There at our YouTube, when you'll see our YouTube station there. We have it on each video. So please take a look and feel free to donate. And every little bit helps. So don't feel like too small is too small. anything helps at all. We're looking to improve our programming. And then today we were in Italy speaking with Claudia here, who's wonderful to talk to, and a lot of interesting perspective on the world and on Europe too, and everything else we talked about has been wonderful. You never know where we'll be tomorrow, so keep a lookout. We're looking for 1 million subscribers. 1 million. We will do this. We will get 1 million subscribers. Please share our videos. Please share, and we thank you. Please share our flyers and our word out there about us. And again, I am Dustin Pickering. Today we spoke with Claudia Piccinno. And thank you again, Claudia. And thanks to our viewers and subscribers out there. Stay safe and keep riding. And don't give up no matter what anybody tells you. It's a very hard business and it's a very tricky business sometimes. And it can get you in a little trouble, but it's good trouble and it's worth it. So keep it up. Thank you, everybody, and have a great afternoon.